Titans. Mike Borgonzi joins the show here today. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
We are great. We are excited to talk to you about this organization and getting here into town. What have the last 24 hours been like for you as you meet the media and as it kind of sets in a little bit that you're the GM of the Titans?
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind. You know, I've had my family down here for the last couple of days. They're leaving today, and we're headed to the East-West today, so we're ready to get to work.
Absolutely. What did you kind of already know about this organization and about Nashville, and what have you kind of learned through this process about the Tennessee Titans and just about this city as you get familiar with it?
Yeah, you know, the first time I spent some time down here, I was with Boston College, and we played in the Music City Bowl in 2008. And we spent a week down here, loved the city. And, I've known the Titans tradition over the years. Of course, we played them a lot when I was with the Chiefs. I know they're a proud franchise. But I'm just here looking to get this thing back to the winning ways here.
Mike Borgonzi, Titans GM, joining us this morning. Mike, man, appreciate you joining us on the show today. You guys made a little bit of a headway yesterday between you and between you and Chad, man. You mentioned one word and everybody ran away with it, man. Well, a couple of words, generational talent. I love to know, as an undrafted guy myself, how do you define generational talent in you guys' eyes?
Well, you know, when you're looking at those top picks in the draft, it's guys that jump right out when you're watching the tape. It's the rare, tools and athleticism that really warrant those top picks. And then the character piece has to come into play too. So, it's a very important, decision we have to make here with the first pick. And I'm going into this with an open mind. I'm just starting to dive in the process with the quarterbacks and some of these other guys. But, generational talent for me is, we've got the number one pick. So, that player is going to be a rare player for us if we're going to take him there.
No doubt about it. Speaking of generational talent, before I go to my next one, man, one guy you mentioned yesterday I did not have on my bingo card, but I remember and I respect the hell out of him, Mike DeVito. I did not expect you to drop his name on the Nashville radio yesterday, man. What a dude he was in his career.
Yeah, just tough, and everything that Mike represented was about the team. And so when we had to turn that thing around in 2013, he was one of the key guys for that team. Just his leadership, his toughness that he brought to the table, and those are the culture guys that you need to really turn around the team. So we're looking to build through the draft, but if we're going to supplement in free agency, we're going to get guys like that. So those type of guys stand out to me. Mike was probably an unheralded player in the league for many years, but you played against him and know how good he was. So we're looking for those type of guys here to try to build the foundation.
And with that being said, I wanted to go this route with you too, man. You guys have done stuff that I don't think many teams can get away with, or at least your evaluation process of finding guys that work for Coach Reed, defensive coordinators, and just a team. Y'all have done some unconventional things like drafting Trey when he had flags on him also. Xavier Worthy, undersized guy, people question. I know they love the speed, but what is he going to be in the NFL? And it worked. And this one's really, confused a lot of people. A left-handed center. Like, you guys drafted him, and he's turned into a dude, man. What goes into figuring out what was a Chief, and what do you plan to do with that here in Nashville?
Yeah, so that's the consistency that you have to have in the synergy with the coaching staff to find out, what is needed on the team during that time. And we did a tremendous job in Kansas City in terms of just the communication process and the thoroughness of going through every player, the evaluation of the player, the character, the medical, our process that we had in Kansas City, that's what I'm looking to bring here. It's very thorough. It's communication with the coaches to know exactly what we need on the roster in terms of the scheme. So things like Creed, we went through that process of, can a left-handed, snapper, it's going to be a little different for Patrick now. But we went through that with Coach Reed and Andy Heck and the staff. And, guys like Worthy, we needed speed on the roster at that time. We were slow last year. So we needed to add some speed. So I think really it just comes down to the thoroughness of the process, the communication, and just having the synergy with the coaching staff as well. And that's really something that I'm looking to bring here with Coach Callan and his staff and our personnel department.
Titans GM Mike Borgonzi with us. One more time on Creed, though, too. Like, when you guys are making that, do you listen to the outside chatters like, well, I don't know if he can play, as a left-handed center, or you just say, screw it, this works for us?
That's exactly what we do. We get in these draft meetings and we would like to say we go dark, and we're just watching tape and communicating with the staff and trying to block out all the outside noise. And we're going to try to do, whatever's best for the Titans now at this point. So all the outside noise, because there's going to be a lot of it, social media and everything else. We're making the best decisions for the Titans right now. And that's going to be, communication and synergy with the staff.
Taking Mel Kiper off my list of Twitter, then. I appreciate
that. New Titans General Manager Mike Borgonzi joining us this morning on RK Dubs, somewhat piggybacking off of Ramon's question. Mike, I had a laugh with you yesterday at the presser talking about how you found some gems from Washington State, my school, Jaden Hicks, Jalen Watson, later in the draft. You can add to that, too. You found Isaiah Pacheco, Trey Smith, L'Jarius Sneed. When it comes to, after round 3 and where you're starting to get in the weeds a little bit of the draft, is there a recipe you've found over the last 16 years at KC that has helped you maybe identify those types of players? And if so, how important is that when you're really starting to build from the ground up here in Tennessee to really nail down those guys?
Yeah, no, it's very important. I think everyone has a good idea of the first 100 picks in the draft, through the media and people that you've watched over the years. But that's the process that we really take pride in, is really digging out those 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round undrafted free agents. A guy like Pacheco, we watched a lot of him at Rutgers, and he was behind an offensive line that, at the time probably wasn't the best at Rutgers. But, we saw some traits in him and speed, his just determination as a runner. And then that's why I think these all-star games are important, too. We saw him at the East-West, and there was some questions about, can he catch the ball out of the backfield? And he didn't have a lot of receptions at Rutgers, but, that's something that we saw at the East-West, that he could catch the football. And then we watched him at his workout, and he could catch the football. So that's the type of stuff, we're going to be relentless on digging out these guys, in the later rounds, and even undrafted free agency, like Ramon, these are the type of guys that sometimes can turn around a team. And speaking, Ramon, I had so much appreciation for the Steelers when we played over the years, and the consistency that you guys had, especially on the offensive line with Villanueva and DeCastro. So that's what we're trying to build here, like the interior we have with Creed in Kansas City and Trey and Tooney. Those are the building blocks. So that's what we're looking to do here.
See, Mike, you speaking my language, man.
You are already a favorite of Ramon Foster. He's talking about undrafted picks.
Dog, you are 7 rounders. I'm in here fist bumping. I'm pumping like dog. Like, yes, I keep telling people, Mike, like, I love the stars. I absolutely love the stars. But a Mike DeVito, you see what I'm saying? Like, finding guys that compliment him, listen, we can do this all day. It's not about me. I get where you're going, okay?
Yeah, that's the foundation. We got to build a foundation here.
Mike, the fans here over the last few years, they haven't had as much stability from the top down as they would have liked to have. And I know that you, coming from an organization where you spent 16 years, a lot of stability in that front office, also in Green Bay, where Chad Brinker originally came from, the same type of thing. How confident are you that you can bring that here and really find that stability and create that from the top down?
Yeah, that's the vision. And I talked about this at the presser yesterday, that I've known Chad for a long time, and his process in Green Bay was probably very similar to our process in Kansas City when I was there. Just in terms of building that stability at the top, and people that have the same vision, speak the same language. That's really important. So that's what we're going to try to do here. And I'm going to have a chance to really meet all our scouts here at the All-Star games and sit down with them. But in terms of at the top and consistency, we had myself and Brett Veach there and Ryan Poles for years. I think that's vital. That's vital to the staff, to the organization. And so, not only are we going to try to build that foundation on the roster, I think it's important to build that foundation within the personnel staff as well. So that's what we're going to get to work with here over the next couple of months.
Tennessee Titans General Manager Mike Borgonzi, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Mike, we had Chad Brinker on our show yesterday, and he talked about the quarterback position being a neck-up position and some of the mental tools at that position being so vital. I know you told our afternoon show yesterday you hadn't dived in a lot to this class of quarterbacks. You had a pretty good one in Kansas City. You didn't have as much of a need to. But when you do start to sit down with these guys at the East-West Shrine Bowl and at the Senior Bowl, what are the most important characteristics of a good quarterback prospect that you'll want to see?
Yeah, all the physical tools that I kind of touched on yesterday, just the arm talent, some of the mobility stuff, which I think is important in today's game to extend plays. But the accuracy and then the processing, and really that's where you really have to dig down on the film and have these questions lined up for them at the All-Star game and the Combine of, what are you seeing here in this coverage? Why did you make this throw? And that's going to be important just going through with Coach Callahan and his staff of really just digging down and how do they process the game? And then the number one factor is going to be leadership too. That they are the face of the franchise, the quarterback, and that's what we're looking for. So, those are the characteristics that we're looking for in that position. And like I said yesterday, to solidify the quarterback position, it's probably the most important position in all of pro sports. It really drives the entire team. So we're going to be relentless on trying to really solidify that position.
Mike, we talk a lot about through processes like this, you can go to certain all-star games or just combine, things like that, and you can look at certain players and say, that guy looks like a Chief, or that guy looks like a Raven, a Packer, a Steeler, to the point about Ramon earlier as well. As you go through this process, what does a Titan look like, and what do you want the identity of this roster to be moving forward, where we can go in a couple of years and look at all-star games and be able to say, yeah, that guy looks like a Tennessee Titan?
Yeah, the type of player I talked about yesterday, just, competitive on the field. They're smart, they're tough, they're dependable, and they just love the game of football through the whole process. They love to practice. They love to meet. They love to be with the guys in the locker room. So those are the type of guys that we're looking for, that are just competitive throughout the entire game, just kind of empty the tank, and you really have to watch that on film just in terms of their play throughout the whole season. Those are the guys that we're looking for, the guys that really lean on each other, that they're fast and violent on the football field. They're just, competitive greatness. That's what we're looking for here. So it's a lot of the intangibles, but we want tough physical players here. And that's going to be the identity here of the Titans.
Titans GM Mike Borgonzi with us this morning. Mike, you mentioned something yesterday on the afternoon show 3HL, man, that like Patrick Mahomes, you guys had a plan for him. You had to sit him. And you said he probably admit he couldn't read coverages. Two things, man, on that one. One, how many quarterbacks that are coming into the league probably face that? And also, y'all really caught him up to speed, because when he started in 2018, we had a really good team. And I'd heard about Patrick Mahomes, right? Yeah. But y'all came to Pittsburgh, and I never forget, it's like, whatever, we real good. He ain't that damn good is what I was thinking. Yeah. And then y'all jumped up 21-0. Yeah. We found out real fast, man. How often does it happen coming into the league? And then what was Patrick's process to get caught up with Andy Reid?
I think every situation is different with the quarterback, and you have to figure it out. So a lot of these guys coming from college, a lot of them haven't been in a huddle before. Calling protections is important. Just spitting out the play call is important. So those little things, just in terms of getting in the huddle, getting guys lined up, getting the protection down, those are the things you have to try to figure out. Do they have a base and a foundation of that coming from college? What type of offense are they running? And how can they get acclimated into this offense? So you get a feel for that when you study them in college and then talk to them in the spring here, whether that's at the Combine or you're talking to their coaches. at their respective schools. But then once you get him in the building, through OTAs, is how is he progressing? Can he get through OTAs? Can he line the team up? Can he get in and out of the huddle? Does he know protections? I think that's the most important thing. You don't want to throw the guy out there and ruin his confidence right away when they don't have, some of those just basic things that you need to just get out of the huddle and line guys up and have that confidence when you're looking at in the huddle when you're looking at these guys that you know what you're doing. So I think it varies from each situation. And with Patrick, I think he needed a lot of that work. And we had a guy like Alex Smith and of course Andy really to mentor him throughout the season. So we had the discipline to sit him. And we put him in that last game in Denver, and he kind of lit it up. And we said, okay, I think he's ready now. But, yeah, those are the things that you have to have a plan coming in, and then you have to be able to adjust it, too, just based on maybe some of the progression that he's had during the off season. I think that's vital, having a plan for the quarterback. And the good thing is Coach Callahan's been around some pretty good ones, in Peyton and Burrow. So he's going to have an idea, if the guy is ready to play right away. So those are the things we're looking at.
Titans new general manager Mike Borgonzi joining us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Mike, I know you're new here, but when it comes to this roster, Chad Brinker on our show yesterday had mentioned, there are a lot of holes to fill. And when you go through this draft process where you're starting to really build the foundation, where do you see some of the holes initially with this roster? And how do you begin with where you start?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously we were a 3-win football team last year, so it's not good enough. So, and my philosophy is we have to build the fronts first. So there are some holes maybe in the offensive line, defensive line. We need to get better, some of the depth. But those are the things we're looking at. And when we go through this process with free agency and the draft, you're almost trying to like marry up those boards and looking at, where can we fill it? Can we fill some of this in free agency? Can we do it through the draft? So those are the things that we're really looking at. Because you can't get everything in the draft, and we want to be competitive here and win next year. So if there are some positions we think that we can fill in free agency, we're going to do that. And it's a supply and demand thing when you're looking at free agency in the draft board. We did that in Kansas City where we're looking, if we did need an offensive lineman, what's it look like in the draft? Do we have to fill it in free agency? So that's the process that we're going to go through here starting, this week.
I got one more for you, man. You mentioned how Alex Smith really coached up Patrick Mahomes basically to take his job, and we've all been there to where the guy behind you is probably your replacement.
Yeah.
How important is that to be able to facilitate a culture that says, look, no matter what, if we're in competition or if I'm securing my job, the betterment of the team is what matters the most. And that's, you mentioned Alejandro, being in that position with us. I had guys that were drafted to take my spot, and you got to create a culture, man, to where the team comes first. How does that start with you guys?
Yeah, I go back to, finding the right type of guys on the roster. And those are selfless guys. They believe they believe in everything about the team. And Alex exemplified that. When he had the chance to work with Patrick, and he knew that we drafted him at 10, and you could tell right away once we got him in training camp that he was a generational talent. So there was some discipline there to make sure that we made sure to make sure that he was right before we played him. But having those type of guys that will mentor some of the young guys, that's what we're looking for. And they're really just selfless guys. And I've known you've gone through that too, guys like yourself. So those are the type of guys we're looking for here.
Titans GM Mike Borgonzi, our guest. Mike, I got to leave you with this. Being from where you are, there's a lot of championship culture up there in Massachusetts. I mean, you talk about the Celtics, talk about the Red Sox, talk about, all the winning that happens up there. Outside of football, who are some of the influences for you, whether it's up there in that neck of the woods or just outside of the world of football? Who do you kind of look up to just in sports in general?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I think the Celtics were the standard. In terms of how they played the game, the Larry Birds and the Kevin McHale's, those guys come to mind when I was growing up, and they exemplified like everything that was about the team. So, growing up in a sports crazed town that, had some teams that had success, when I was younger, the Patriots really weren't that great. The Red Sox were struggling, but it was really the Celtics that we kind of, when I was younger, that I kind of looked up to, and I said, that's a championship caliber team right there. So I'd have to go with the Celtics.
Did it hurt you to beat the Patriots and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl? You mentioned it. I got to ask it.
That beating Tom Brady?
Yeah.
That did not hurt, no.
You did it for me, too. Thank you.
Yeah. No, we had our struggles early on in KC beating those guys, and guys like, the Steelers with Ben. We went through all that process, but now it felt good beating those guys, though, for sure.
Jesse James called it. I'll never forget. All right. I'm not hurt still. I'm over it. Not really.
Not at all. Not at all. Titans GM Mike Borgonzi, our guest this morning here on Ramon, Kayla and Will. Mike, to you and your family, welcome again to Nashville. Excited to have you here, and look forward to talking more down the road. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me on. I look forward to talking with you more.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir. Mike Borgonzi with us here this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Your chance to react to that, 615-737-1045. We'll give you our thoughts on the highlights. So what the new GM had to tell us coming up next.